Easy 3DI, Chapter 5, the TMJ Tab Overview. Objectives of this session are to manipulate image for TMJ evaluation, VR coloring, windowing, clipping, TMJ to define area feature, change layout, and default toolbar. First section, manipulate image for TMJ evaluation. From the NPR screen, we can first start within our axial window, and it's often recommended to scroll through using the center wheel of your mouse until you can see the condyle heads appearing there on the right and left hand side. And once you've gotten that in your view, left click on the TMJ tab along the top of the screen. That will then open up the TMJ tab itself, where we can then refine our view within our scout view, which is actually the same as our axial view in the NPR window, and then adjust our navigation panes for both the right as well as left hand side of our anatomy to reveal the condyle heads in our 3D coloring windows at the top on the left and right hand side, as well as our section views along the bottom of the screen. You can left click to adjust the size and orientation of this navigation pane. You can also left click on the red sectional lines to scroll through. You can also use the center wheel of your mouse to scroll through the sectional views at the bottom of the screen. And again, by left clicking, you can also then adjust the size of the viewing area, either going anterior posterior or going laterally as well from left to right. You can also do the same thing on the left hand side of our anatomy by left clicking to rotate around to change the orientation of your view, and also being able to adjust by left clicking on the sectional lines to scroll through the anatomy as well. You can also right click on the sectional views and change both your thickness as well as your interval. In this case here, change our thickness to 5 millimeters and change our interval also to 5 millimeters, and then from here be able to scroll through our anatomical views using either the center wheel of our mouse. And we also then change our thickness, if we want to, down to 0 and 0.1 millimeter to reduce the thickness and intervals down to that variable. We can also left click on our 3D colored images to look at our anatomy of the left hand side of our condyle, as well as doing the same thing by left clicking to view the right hand side of our condyle. We also have snap views to look at it from the left laterally, anterior posterior, from the right, posterior anterior, as well as from the foot looking up, or an axial view. You can also then again left click to rotate your image around to generate a desired view. You also have the ability where you can right click to pan the image around on the screen as well. And the same thing can be done on the left hand side. VR coloring. Continuing under the TMJ tab, we have 3 coloring options to apply to our 3D renderings. First being the teeth option here, which creates a highly translucent view of our anatomy. We also have the bone view, which creates a more opaque view of our anatomy, as well as MIP, or maximum intensity projection, to create a grayscale view of our anatomy as well. By clicking on the settings, we can adjust the density range by left clicking in the green area and sliding it to the left. We can also left click slide to the right to decrease the lower end of our density scale. We can also left click on our density points, either increase or decrease the opacity, as well as changing the color value based on that particular density value. We can also adjust our color scale by left clicking on the box at the top of the screen and then apply the density based on the value displayed at the bottom of the screen. And by left clicking to the right and to the left, we can adjust our density range. Clicking OK will then apply it to our view. We can also do the same thing for our bone view there as well, where we can also then adjust our opacity by increasing and decreasing the opacity, as well as increasing and decreasing the brightness, and lastly increasing and then decreasing our contrast. You can also remove the condyle checkmark to reveal just the fossa, place the checkmark back in there to reveal the condyle, as well as remove the checkmark from fossa to reveal just the condyle head itself. You can also left click on reset to reset our view back to original opacity. Next topic, windowing. We also have the ability where we can adjust our grayscale views using the windowing section along the left hand side of the screen. We can adjust our brightness or width by left clicking and dragging from right to left or left to right. We can also then adjust our contrast also by left clicking and dragging from the left to the right to either increase to the right or decrease your contrast by sliding to the left. We can also smoothen our view. We can also change this to an MIP view, virtually rendered view. We can also sharpen our view, maximize our sharpened effect, as well as inverse. Lastly, under the windowing section, we also have the ability to adjust and apply our bone density feature. We then assign a color based on a specific density range. To adjust the density range itself and the color banding, click on the settings to adjust the gradient or hard edge. You can also have the ability where you can adjust the range as far as the color banding for each density range itself. You can either reset it, otherwise when you're finished, simply click on OK. You also have the ability where you can left click from left to right to adjust the brightness, and then left click up and down to adjust your contrast. You can also do the same thing in the scout view as well as the sectional views. And then click on reset. Next topic, clipping. Continuing from the TMJ tab itself, we have the ability to access the clipping utility by clicking on Apply Clipping. And then from there, from the drop-down menu, we can choose either sagittal, coronal, axial, or smart clipping. We'll demonstrate first using the coronal clipping, and by left clicking, slide from left to right to adjust anterior posterior, and then left clicking to rotate around the 3D rendering itself, or going posterior anterior to rotate around from the other direction as well. We can also do a sagittal, then going from left to right or right to left, and then rotating your view. You can also do the same thing for axial, where you want to go from superior to inferior border of your defined view, or going from the foot up. And then lastly doing the smart view, and then clipping accordingly. You also have the variable to adjust the thickness of how much anatomy you're clipping. TMJ Define Area feature. Continuing down the bottom left hand corner of the screen, we can click on Define TMJ Area to define how much anatomy we want to see going vertically. The yellow lines identify the top and bottom border of our viewing area in our 3D view in the upper right and left hand side of our TMJ tab itself. We also have then the ability where we can adjust that and define our area going vertically by left clicking and then moving our yellow line either up or down to redefine our viewing area. We can also then adjust it vertically and as well as horizontally based on millimeters. Click on OK then to apply. Left click to then rotate your image around in the right hand side as well as doing the same thing on the left hand side. We can then define our view again to view more anatomy vertically. Left click on OK to view more anatomy in both the right as well as left hand side. Last topic, changing the layout. In the bottom left hand corner we have the ability to adjust our layout. Left click it to bring up our predefined layouts, and the one that's in green is the one that's currently being displayed, and the yellow banner identifies our default layout. Left click to apply a different layout with 12 sectional views altogether and MIP views instead of the 3D rendering views in the upper left and upper right. Left click again one more time on change layout, and then right clicking on a specific layout and then left clicking on the drop down menu will then set that default layout. Default toolbar. In the upper left hand side in the green toolbar we have default icons such as panning. Left clicking to activate, we can then left click to move the 3D coloring image for right and left hand side, the scout image, as well as our sectional views. We have zooming by left clicking to apply. We can then left click and then slide our mouse from left to right or up and down to either zoom in or zoom out on our anatomy. Measurement tool, where we can then perform a measurement, in this case here our grayscale views, to measure the width of our depth of our condyle head. We then right click to delete it, and if we wish we can also then grab a snapshot. Left click to apply to grab a snapshot of our entire viewing area, and left click on reset to reset our view. In summary, you should now be able to manipulate images for TMJ evaluation, apply VR coloring, understand windowing, clipping, TMJ to define area feature, change layout, as well as default toolbar.